Hey, before we get started, some quick announcements about the schedule. We'll be listening to a talk by our guest speaker today, Sukaina Rajwani, who's travelled from South London. And then that will be followed by a question and answer session. You will see QR codes posted around the room. So if you do have a phone, you can scan it and during the talk submit your questions. You'll also be able to ask questions with the microphone at the end as well. Toilets on your right hand side, and there are also accessible toilets as well. Welcome to the year 2026, where cardboard signs are illegal. Opposing genocide is terrorism, and Arabic words are an arrestable offence. If you think that's not an infringement on your civil or human rights, you'd probably be crazy. Danish politician Aude Aukens said, "In the year 2030, we will have no privacy, we will own nothing, and we'll still be happy and content," because that's the way that we're being conditioned. And there's no better example of that than a group by the name of the Filton24. They started off as the Filton 18, which increased to 21, then 23, now 24. And if you want to call it a miscarriage of justice, or you might call it state persecution, we might have another name for it. They are a group of people, citizens, students, writers, people who have been imprisoned around the country, around England, since last summer. Their crime? Well, there isn't one, because they haven't had a trial yet. And yet they've been not just imprisoned, I think that's too kind, but persecuted for the past, coming up to 2 years shortly, before ever having a trial, before being convicted of anything, before even really being charged with anything. They've just been detained because their voice is such a threat and a weapon in our society. Of course, the other group of people that we're here today for are the people of Gaza and Palestine, who, not for just 2 years, but for over 7 decades, have been living, breathing a genocide, an act which is unforgettable and I think certainly unforgivable. And whether our rights are being influenced by the American administrations or the so-called State of Israel and that administration, it's an attack on everybody when any one of us is imprisoned, persecuted, or accused of doing something which not only they did out of love, out of conscience, out of morality, but also because it's the right thing to do. And it certainly is not terrorism. So, before I hand over to our guest speaker, I'd also just like to announce that we currently have 4 people on hunger strike. I'm sure many of you are aware of them. We have Heather in Wakefield, who's on day 62 of their hunger strike. We've got T in Peterborough, who's on day 56, currently on their hunger strike. We've got Cameron, who's on day 55, and Louis was on day 41. And they are on hunger strike simply because they are starving for justice, quite literally. And although the government thinks they've taken away all their rights, they can never take away their bodily integrity and their autonomy. And that's a very important lesson for us all, I think, that we can learn from them. So I'll invite now our guest speaker, Sukaina Rajwani, who very kindly has travelled with her husband up from South London to be with us here today to talk about her daughter, Fatema Zainab Rajwani, who's currently been held in Bronzefield Prison since August of 2024. We are, of course, in January 2026. And that will give you an idea as to how they're being used as an example and why it will never work for the rest of us. Thank you very much, and to Sukaina Rajwani. Thank you.
Secret site of Elbit Systems, Israel's biggest weapons producer. The site in Filton, Bristol, had been marketed as a research and development site. Yet the 6 activists uncovered the masses of weapons that were being developed and stored in this undercover warehouse. During their action, the six dismantled and destroyed a shipment of killer quadcopter drones that Israel uses in Gaza. Quadcopters are used for bombings, but are also known as sniper drones. These are lowered after bombings to annihilate remaining survivors by detecting live pulses. Israel also uses quadcopters to distribute evacuation orders as well as to fly into Palestinian homes through doors or windows in order to take surveillance footage or shoot to kill. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. When they are told, "Do not spread corruption in the land," they reply, "We are only the peacemakers. Indeed, it is they who are the corruptors, but they fail to perceive it." This is from chapter 2 in the Holy Quran, verses 11 and 12. Assalamu alaikum, peace be upon all of you, and a very good afternoon to all of you. I'd like to wish all of you a very happy new year, and I pray that truth, justice, and liberation prevails this year, and may this year see our loved ones freed, inshallah. I'd like to extend my appreciation to Peterborough PSC, and especially to Khashayar for inviting me here today to share my daughter Fatema Zainab's story as well as the Filton24 story with all of you. Over a year ago, on 6th of August 2024, one day after her 20th birthday, Fatema Zainab was arrested on site at Elbit Filton, an Israeli arms manufacturer in Bristol. This was along with 5 other activists. They're accused of taking part in an action that dismantled and destroyed a shipment of Israeli killer quadcopter drones from the UK factory used in the active genocide in Gaza. These drones are part of the weapons that are used in the ongoing genocide to slaughter men, women, and children. I'd like to show you an example of an Israeli drone which emits sounds of crying children at Al-Nusayrat camp in Gaza. This was to target and shoot civilians who were drawn out by the cries. This video that I'm about to share was reported by Anas Al-Sharif, a journalist in Gaza who was recently martyred. What I'd like you to do is pay extra attention and listen really carefully to the drones which mimic the babies crying to draw the people out. Is there a way to make this louder? Might just need to make it a bit louder.
Yeah, nothing. Is it starting?
زي ما انتم سامعين بالضبط.
I'll start from the beginning.
يا جماعة الخير، قوات رابطة بتطلق صوت أطفال الآن من مخيم إنسارات زي ما انتم سامعين بالضبط. حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل. طبعا زي ما سمعنا بالصوت أي حد بيطلع امبارح استشهدوا شاب طلع مسكين يشوف إيش الصوت في مدرسة، طبعا طلع والله قنصوه. حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل.
Could you hear the background sound of the babies crying? So this is what the drones emit, drawing the people out to check on civilians and babies, and then the drones shoot at them. The 6 activists who destroyed these weapons were arrested at the site and held in solitary confinement for over a week. They have now been imprisoned without trial for 17 months. Since they were detained, a further 18 people have been arrested in connection to the action, most of whom were captured in armed raids on their homes by mobs of counter-terror police. All of them have been denied bail and remain on remand. Their arrests began as a test case to see how the expansion of terrorism legislation could be used to protect the Israeli military business in Britain, most specifically of Elbit Systems. The United Nations has officially written to the government declaring that the original 10 being held in solitary confinement, interrogated day and night with no contact with families for a week by the state, possibly amounts to enforced disappearance. This has been established, like I said, in a letter that the UN sent to the UK government condemning the unjustified use of the UK counter-terror laws against the Filton24. I'd like to show you another video. This video is a mob, it's a video of a mob of 30 counter-terror police raiding the home of one of the Filton24 to arrest them. Share with you something really personal. So the first 2 weeks following Fatema Zainab's arrest was the most difficult time for us as a family. We did not have any contact with her. We did not know how she was and where she was being held. This that comes along with the stigma of having your daughter in prison was quite challenging for us. However, looking back in hindsight, I think that the 2 weeks of no communication may actually have been a blessing in disguise for us. It gave me the time and the space to process my thoughts, my feelings, and my emotions. It allowed me to reflect and decide my stance moving forward. Being a Muslim, during this time, I spent a lot of time thinking about what direct action means in Islam, as well as our obligations in Islam to uphold laws of the land that are unjust. Again, as a Muslim, we learn lessons from the lives of our prophets, peace be upon them all. And one thing that was constantly on my mind that I wondered about was that if by destroying of the idols by Prophet Ibrahim, peace be upon him, could this be categorized as direct action? And if in the present day we would find him guilty of criminal damage for destroying the idols, and with him wielding an axe at the time, would we then find him guilty of violent disorder and aggravated burglary? So these were the thoughts that were running in my mind during those couple of weeks. This really helped me comprehend in real time how Islam places great emphasis on standing against injustice. It was during these 2 weeks that I had no contact with Fatema Zainab that I decided that I will stand by her, that I will advocate for her, and I will fight for her. I saw this as my small opportunity to stand on the path of resistance against oppression. I'd like to share a little bit about Fatema Zainab with you. Fatema Zainab to date has spent nearly 17 months in prison. Today I cannot speak of how proud I am of my daughter for standing up for what's right and what's just, as then I would be at risk of supporting a proscribed organization. However, I can tell you a little bit about Fatema Zainab as a person. She's a very compassionate soul, and she's very passionate about social justice. When the genocide started in October 2023, Fatema Zainab was at the time in her second year of film and media studies at Goldsmiths University. She dreams of producing and directing her own documentaries one day. The ongoing live stream genocide took a toll on Fatema Zainab. She did not want to be complicit in it. She participated in protests and marches week after week, as well as her uni encampments for 10 months into the genocide. The government continued to arm Israel in the midst of an ongoing genocide. In January 2024, the International Courts of Justice ruled that Israel was committing plausible acts of genocide. 5-year-old Hind Rajab was brutally murdered with 355 bullets shot at her. In February 2024, the Flower massacre occurred, where Israeli forces opened fire on starving Palestinians seeking food aid. In March 2024, the raid on Al-Shifa hospital lasted 2 weeks and killed 400 people during this time. Ramadan 2024 began, and the merciless assaults continued. Designated safe zones were bombed, and camps and tents were set on fire. I believe that these were the defining moments since the start of the genocide that made Fatema Zainab realize that peacefully protesting wasn't enough, and that only direct action could make any difference and ease her conscience of not being complicit. I'd like to introduce you today to the rest of the Filton24 who are accused along with Fatema Zainab for taking action to try to stop a genocide. They're all human beings with a strong moral compass. The first 6 to be arrested on site, along with Fatema Zainab, include Zoe, Leona, Jordan, Charlotte, and Sam. Within a couple of days of this arrest, a further 4, Madeline, Hannah, Will, and Ian were arrested, making the Filton 6 to Filton 10. 3 months later, in November 2024, a further 8 were arrested in connection to the action. Kesser, Yulia, Kamran, Tiyuta, Zahra, Sean, Hiba, and Alexandra, making them 18. More recently, 6 months ago, 6 more individuals were arrested in relation to the action. Salam, Moez, Harley, Finn, Louis, and one more person who doesn't wish to be named at this time, making them the Filton24. So, the question that we ask is, why Elbit Systems? Elbit Systems is part of the Elbit Systems UK is part of the multinational arms company Elbit Systems Limited, headquartered in Haifa, occupied Palestine. It is Israel's largest weapons manufacturer, profiting from and enabling the Zionists' military regime. Its occupation, apartheid, and genocide of Palestine It supplies the Israeli military with 85% of their drones and land-based equipment and more. They also produce munitions and components for all Israeli attack aircrafts. Their weaponry is often marketed as battle-tested, boasting how they use Palestinians as test subjects. What this means is that when you hear reports from doctors in Gaza sharing on their social media stuff like, "We've never seen burns like this before," this is because Elbit experiments with new military technologies by testing them on captive Palestinian civilians. Often, Elbit workers go out into the field with the IOF to observe their products in use, and then they refine the technology according to the success of the operation. Workers of the company of Elbit Systems have said in interviews that they consider themselves to be civil soldiers. It is Elbit Systems that supply weapons that murder their neighbors in the Middle East, men, women, and children in Yemen, in Lebanon, in Syria, in Iran. Elbit's military equipment was used during the invasion of Iraq against the Kashmiri people and for the Mexico-US border wall. Elbit conducted the first AI war, which infamously led to the killing of the Bakr boys who were playing football on a beach in Gaza in 2014. It is also important to note further that investigations by Declassified UK show that the Elbit facility in Filton, where Fatema Zainab was arrested at, was shipping arms to Israel during the genocide. And this was in contravention of a UN arms embargo on Israel. They were, with the complicity of the British government, breaking international law. Fatema Zainab and her co-defendants, with their alleged action, were upholding international law. Just a few more bits on Elbit Systems. Elbit Systems is presently under investigation by NATO for corruption. I don't know if you've heard that. We've also heard of the British Ministry of Defence's plans to award a 15-year contract worth £2.5 billion to Elbit Systems in order to train the UK military. I'd like to share another video with you. So this is Dr. Nizam Mahmood. He's a humanitarian surgeon and a retired professor of transplant surgery. He was a volunteer surgeon in an emergency medical team in Gaza. He gave evidence to the Parliamentary International Development Committee, and as he does, he breaks down into tears as he described the children's accounts of being shot by quadcopter drones. He told the MPs in Parliament that Israeli drones would target children who were lying injured after the bombings.
What I think I found particularly disturbing was that a bomb would drop maybe on a crowded, tented area, and then the drones would come down and...
Please take your time. We're incredibly grateful that you're making the time to be here today, and I can only imagine just how it has impacted you and will continue to impact you. And I feel, because you can't unsee what you've seen, but being able to share that with us really helps us hold legislators particularly to account. So we do appreciate the time that you're making for us today. Thank you.
So the drones would come down and pick off civilians, children, and we had description after description. This is not, an occasional thing. This was day after day after day, operating on children who would say, I was lying on the ground after a bomb had dropped, and this quadcopter came down and hovered over me and shot me. And that's clearly a deliberate act, and it was a persistent act, persistent targeting of civilians day after day. We had 1 or 2 mass casualty incidents every day.
According to investigations by Declassified UK, the crackdown on pro-Palestine activists comes after a series of disturbing meetings between the UK Home Office, the police, Elbit Systems, Israel Embassy, and the Crown Prosecution Service. A paper trail of correspondence reveals the pressure that the Israeli officials have put on the UK government to discourage and diminish all pro-Palestine direct action. The past few months have seen mass arrests of thousands of pro-Palestine activists across England, Scotland, and Wales. It seems that the UK government has a personal interest invested in Elbit Systems as they benefit from the arms trade and the murder of innocent lives financially, as well as to push imperialistic policies across the globe. It was Britain that legitimized Israel's colonization project through the Balfour Declaration, and it continues to legitimize it through providing arms to Israel throughout the genocide. Britain is an active participant in the genocide, in spite of being party to the Genocide Convention, obligated by international law to enforce the prohibition of genocide. Amnesty International, Human Rights Watch, genocide scholars, two leading human rights organizations based in Israel itself, BT Salim and Physicians for Human Rights, as well as the United Nations, have all declared that Israel is committing genocide against Palestinians in Gaza. Looking back at the past 17 months, I'd like to touch a little bit on finding beauty in the situation our family finds itself in. It has definitely been a challenging journey, but some of the experiences have truly been beautiful. It is a matter of identifying that beauty and ease and being grateful for these. First and foremost, I am grateful to have been guided to stand up for truth and justice. Whilst we were aware of the atrocities happening around the world, we continued living in a bubble until Fatema Zainab's imprisonment. During these challenging times, we have found a community of people, many of them total strangers from a diverse range of backgrounds, people of faith and no faith, from all walks of life, who have become our brothers and sisters in this shared struggle. We have built as a family a deeper connection with our faith. We have learned to find hope, joy, and beauty as acts of resistance in a space and a system which is designed to condemn and break us. I'd like to share about the trial as well. After 15 months in prison, without being convicted of any crime, on November 17, 2024, the first 6 of the Filton24 began their trial at Woolwich Crown Court. This included Fatema Zainab as well. All 6 were arrested inside the Elbit facility in August 2024. To note, this is the first time that Britain has attempted to equate property damage with terrorism, setting a dangerous precedent. The arbitrary use of counter-terror powers means that if the defendants are convicted, the judge, not the jury, will be able to decide on the terror connection bit. This would impact their sentencing if they're found guilty. Out of hundreds of actions taking place over a 5-year period, this was the first action that resulted in the use of the terrorism legislation being leveraged upon activists taking direct action. The use of these powers justified violent dawn raids by armed officers, as we saw earlier, resulting in the destruction of family homes. It resulted in minors being handcuffed in their underwear in the snow, in the freezing cold, and houses being swept clean of all electronic devices. The defendants, including Fatema Zainab, entered prison as high-risk prisoners and have been continually refused bail. Several government ministers, including the Prime Minister himself, have made a number of public statements misrepresenting the facts of the Filton24 case to protect their working relationship with Elbit Systems. Throughout the media, there have been multiple references to the Filton24 as if they are already guilty. These claims, made public by ministers, are thoroughly in contempt of court and have prejudiced the case. The Filton co-defendants have been refused bail multiple times, and during trial this is no exception. This means that the 6 co-defendants have had to attend the trial from prison. The 4 girls are held in HMP Bronzefield in Surrey. They're woken up at 5 a.m. in the morning and driven in a Serco prison van to court, taking 2.5 to 3 hours, often leaving and arriving late, meaning that the defendants are denied time with their lawyers before court. The journey back to Bronzefield can take as long as 5 hours, with the van stopping to collect other prisoners from other courts around the city. The defendants can only have their evening meal when they get back to Bronzefield, often as late as 9 or 10 p.m., too late to be allowed to shower, with a repeat the next day. The 2 boys are held at HMP Belmarsh, which is right next door to Woolwich Crown Court, and they're taken to court each morning via an underground tunnel. Despite being only 200 yards away, both of these boys are woken up at 5 a.m. The boys have been repeatedly x-rayed multiple times a day, denied vegetarian food. They've been denied showers and phone calls as well. Despite all of these, all 6 co-defendants seem to be keeping their spirits up, and it's been beautiful for the past 5 weeks to see their brave faces on the dock every day. All 6 are charged jointly on 3 accounts: aggravated burglary, criminal damage, and violent disorder. Samuel Corner, one of the 6, faces an additional charge of GBH. All 6 defendants have pleaded not guilty to all the charges. A couple of points to note from the prosecution side. Prosecution withdrew their witness from Elbit Systems UK in the trial. The prosecution do not dispute the Filton24's belief in Elbit's role in Israel's genocide, and so the trial did not go into that sort of detail that might otherwise be expected. Fatema Zainab took stand to give evidence on Thursday 11th and Friday 12th of December. She was asked about her engagement with Palestine, and she spoke of going to peace rallies for Palestine in her teenage years, as well as being part of her uni encampment and participating in national marches and demos since the genocide started. She said she kept seeing the endless images from Gaza on her phone and decided to do more. She also said that she'd understood that there would be charges of criminal damage and possibly aggravated trespass. On the stand, Fatema Zainab confirmed that her intention was to dismantle the weapons and decommission the site. She also confirmed that she was wearing a GoPro camera, which she confirmed that she had taken in order to film Elbit Systems' complicity in the genocide and other companies enabling genocide. All 6 co-defendants have now given evidence. They have completed 5 weeks of trial, and they've been on a 2-week Christmas/New Year's break. After the break, the week beginning next week, 5th of January, there will be closing statements by the prosecution by defense barristers and directions by the judge to the jury, and this is estimated to take 1 week. The jury will then go out to deliberate on the verdicts. The jury have to reach 19 verdicts. They have to reach individual verdicts for each of the 6, and that's 3 verdicts each person plus the additional one for additional charge for Sam, bringing it to a total of 19. We hope and pray that they have shared their motivation for taking action against Elbit Systems to stop UK collusion in a genocide against the people of Palestine. And we hope that the jury will be won over and find them innocent. Craig Murray is a Scottish author, a human rights campaigner, and a journalist, and is also a former diplomat. Whilst he was the British ambassador to Uzbekistan, he exposed the violations of human rights in the country. He lodged formal written complaints to his superiors, stating that it was morally and legally wrong to obtain intelligence under torture, and that the intelligence received by the Secret Intelligence Service and the CIA from the Uzbek government was unreliable because it had been obtained through torture. This led to conflict with his superiors in the Foreign Office until he was finally removed from the post. So the background on this is because Craig has attended Woolwich Crown Court for the trial in person, and he has documented his experience on his website. And I'd like to share some of the things that he said in regards to the trial. He says that every single prosecution witness, this includes the police officer and the security guard, who gave evidence about the chaos in the factory, was obliged to change their statement when confronted by the defense with video evidence which contradicted it. This included much more video than was revealed by prosecution. He also says that the prosecution produced a misleading account of the number and the location of CCTV cameras in the factory, and that the prosecution were obliged to present a new map showing more cameras. He also says that the video evidence was left, and this was exposed in court during the trial, that the video evidence was left or given into the hands of Elbit. A search of Elbit's premises in November 2025 found the USB sticks of video in their Metropolitan Police evidence bags in Elbit's safe, and this was 1 year after the action took place. The last fact is simply astonishing. The evidence collected and apparently correctly bagged by the police had simply been handed over to Elbit apparently for over a year. This is only part of a much wider collusion between Elbit and the UK state, including the police. And if you've been following the hunger strikers, one of the key demands of the Palestine Action hunger strikers is the full release of correspondence between Elbit and UK authorities, including the counter-terror police. And I've put some quotes on the screen from Craig Murray's account of the trial. I'll just read them out really quickly in case you can't see it from far away. He says, what is evident from these exchanges is that the security guards and the police are unreliable witnesses. It is not merely that their evidence differs from what is shown by video cameras. It is that consistently their sworn evidence is untrue in a way that makes the Palestine Action activists more aggressive and themselves more passive than in fact was the case. And then he goes on to say that some of the highest drama in this trial consists in the discussions on admissibility of evidence when the jury is sent out. This was again the case on Thursday when I was there. This is from Craig Murray. Unfortunately, reporting restrictions prevent me from telling you what this is about until the trial is over, when I shall have much to say. He also says, it is also simply remarkable that the prosecution's highly selective and edited video evidence has been put into the public domain and has notably affected the public narrative, but the defense video evidence has not been made public. There was also an instance, and you would find this on his website in more detail, the cross-examination about the police handling of the video evidence, which is also highly revealing, where one PC Grant say was the one involved in the evidence staying with Elbit Systems for over a year and giving advice to Elbit Systems. And Craig Murray goes on to say, it is hard to imagine a plainer admission than that a serving British police officer saw her primary duty as helping Israel's largest arms manufacturer to secure convictions rather than establishing the truth. So these are just some takeaway points from Craig Murray's account. So Khashayar has already spoken about the hunger strikers. Initially, on the 2nd of November 2024, 8 individuals, part of the wider Palestine Action prisoners, started a hunger strike on a rolling basis. At present, we have 4 individuals who have stopped the hunger strike or paused it, and there's 4 who are still ongoing. So there's Hiba Muraisi, who is on day 62 of her hunger strike. There is Tiyuta Hoxha, who is actually in HMP Peterborough on day 56 of her hunger strike. There's Kamran Ahmed on day 55 of his hunger strike. And there is Louis, and sincere apologies for pronouncing his last name incorrectly. It's Chiaramello. He's a diabetic, so he's on a modified hunger strike, or he would die very rapidly. He's on day 41 of his hunger strike. And the demands of the hunger strikers are immediate bail for the prisoners. They've been held longer than the custody time limits of 6 months. The right to a fair trial, including access to all relevant documents, an end to prison censorship and restrictions on communications. Example, blocking their letters, phone calls, and books. Lifting the ban or deprescribing Palestine Action as a terrorist organization. And the shutdown of Elbit Systems UK, all sites in the UK. I would like to end by sharing one of Fatema Zainab's poems. She wrote this during her first month of imprisonment, and it is titled, I Dream of a Love.
I write to you in my state of love and grief. At night I dream of a love so wide and so deep it frees us all. It stretches across continents to fill the space between my brown body and yours. At night I dream of a love that could reach out and keep you safe. I wish the love I dream of was enough. I wish the love I dream of would hold your grief the same way that our silence holds violence. When there is nothing else to write about, I write about love, because there is no life worth living, no strength worth perception, if not for love. The kind of love that forces you to witness, the kind of love that aches and expands across seas and cities, the kind of love that does not stay silent, love that is not patient or kind, but relentless and harsh. I dream of a love so encompassing it hurts, a love that does not make us less afraid, but a love that makes us less compromising. At night, I dream of a love so wide and so deep it frees the soul. And when dawn breaks, I dream of waking up to a love that is not new, but old and ancient and unforgiving, the type of love that stands to action. There is no greater act of love than standing uncompromising between all which you know that destroys and all which could be rebuilt anew.
That brings me that brings me to the end of my presentation today. Thank you so much for taking the time to come here and be with us during this struggle for your solidarity. I do know that HMP Peterborough has seen lots of action outside it. Lots of you do go and call out the injustices and the oppressions that are taking place in there. There's 3 Filton24 prisoners in HMP Peterborough. There's Tuta, there's Hannah and Alexandra. All of them are in HMP Peterborough. Well, once again, thank you so much for your love and support and solidarity. I'm just sharing this last slide on the screen. Often people ask me, how can we support Fatema Zainab and the Filton24? So I have just put it all together in a slide for you to take away with. Thank you.
Thank you for your words and for being present with us today, and of course not just to you but all of the families of the Filton24 who have been travelling up and down the country spreading the news and educating us about what's happened, because the media certainly will never tell us. And this is why it's so important that all of you have come here today, so that we not only learn for ourselves, but we learn what we can do. And please study as well the slide on the screen to work out how you can support Fatema Zainab and any of the Filton24. So thank you very much. We'll have a very short question and answer session. Thank you for submitting your questions. Some of them have already been answered in the talk, but for those that haven't, they will be asked. And anyone who does have a question as well, if you raise your hand afterwards, and we will pass a mic to you. And after that, there will be food and refreshments, so please do stay. And many of you will be unfamiliar with each other here, so please meet and greet people that you don't know, because as the saying goes, the people united will never be defeated, and we are the people here, and we are united, and that's why we all come here today. I will ask the first question, which has been submitted, so thank you to whoever did submit this, which is, how do you, as a mother, decide what's the best way to support your daughter, and how do you balance that with the rights of individuals in the UK?
In terms of the rights of the individuals in the UK, I'm not sure I actually understand what that means. Is there more?
I think that they're asking, in terms of your role as a mother and your role as a citizen, supporting your daughter and also supporting the rights which she's been denied, how you try to balance those.
Sure. So, like I mentioned earlier on, it's been quite a journey. The past 17 months, I have learned, as the months, the days, the weeks and months have passed, I have learned what I am capable of in terms of raising awareness, in terms of speaking with people, in terms of being able to accept what support and solidarity is out there from different people in different groups. So it's been a journey for myself as well. And like I mentioned, it was the first 2 weeks when I had a lot of time on my hand to think. By nature, I'm quite paranoid, I'm given to anxiety very quickly. So it gave me a lot of time and space to think and to decide and to actually decide my stance moving forward. And it's not just about Fatema Zainab, I've got other children as well, and it's about having that balance to be able to to be able to balance home and life, and to make sure that there is continuity with me going out and speaking for Fatema Zainab and for the other Filton24. There's a lot of us there in the movement, and all of us do take on different bits and pieces, different responsibilities. People who work on the social media part of things, people who go across to different marches and rallies. There's one for Hiba today evening. So the responsibilities are divided, but we do have a universal message that is about upholding the rights, individual rights, for all of us, because at the end of the day, this is something that's coming for all of us. We need to be aware that it does not stop at Gaza. Gaza is just an experiment, it's a test, it's coming for all of us. For those of you in Peterborough, and I was speaking with some people earlier, they spoke about drones following on from HMP Peterborough. Where have we seen drones in UK before? Doesn't that ring any alarm bells? So this is about all of our rights that we all need to stand up for. We owe it to our future generations to fight for them, to give them a better life.
I appreciate there'll be people of different religions and faiths here, maybe people of no faith. So this next question is, how did your religion help you support the Filton24 and your daughter, and do you consider yourself an activist?
I'll take the second part first. I was never an activist. I think I've been dragged into the deep end, way out of my comfort zone, but this is something that I have learned through Fatema Zainab's actions, and it's constantly a struggle for me. Every time I have to speak, I am really nervous. I need to prepare in advance. I need to know what I'm going to say. I am especially nervous for the questions because I wouldn't know what to expect. So yeah, I'm way out of my comfort zone. I am in the deep end, but this is something that I felt I had to do. I had to amplify her voice. I had to get her story out, because this is something that's going to affect all of us sooner or later. We need to be prepared with the information. In terms of the first part of the question, how did my faith support me? Or I think faith plays a big role. It gives us grounding. It allows us to, and anyone of any faith, all faiths teach the same, to stand up for justice, to stand against oppression. And people of no faith, their innate nature tells them the same thing, to stand up for truth and justice. So this, and to be humane at the end of the day. So with me personally, because I do believe in a faith, it has helped me, it's kept me grounded, it's given me hope and trust and comfort. And most importantly, it's allowed me to be steadfast.
I will open it up to people in the room as well. If they wish to ask a question, just to raise your hand and we'll pass a mic to you.
Thank you for bringing us all here today. Can I just stand over here a bit? Thanks. My question is, where do people go to get the information for what is likely to be needed when the sentence, not the sentencing, when the jury come back with their verdict? Because experience from the climate movements has shown that exactly the details that Craig Murray has shared about the corruption, deep corruption that has taken part before and during this trial, has a massive influence on the jury. And if the jury are persuaded by a very powerful and manipulative judge to find them guilty, it will be yet another travesty of justice. So my question is, are we preparing for the best result and also for the worst? What are those preparations looking like, and how do we as supporters prepare? So for instance, I'm going on a bus on the 12th, because the 12th is a Monday and I understand that it will be coming to a close. How can we make sure that the hundreds of thousands who come to the streets can potentially be looking and saying, I'm going to take a day off on that day and or that day. Between us, we need to make sure that any days where the verdict is given, that we've got floods of people outside Woolwich, so that the judges know we're watching, and so that the juries are aware that the people are watching. And, you know, it's so important because the corruption will continue to the bitter end, and the jury will make the wrong decision because of the influence of the judges. So I'm really anxious, and I really believe that we can do something to let them know that we're watching. And huge numbers like we have at the demonstrations, I think, might be helpful. But I think that the defendants obviously need to say really what they want or what they don't want, and I don't know how easy that is. But anyway, sorry to have spoken a lot, but yeah, thank you.
Thanks. So from my understanding, what you're asking is how we're preparing for the verdicts, which could go either way, as well as how to mobilize people to be there. So in terms of mobilizing people, we do have our social media platforms, which we are putting call-outs on. However, you know, it is really important that organizations with wider platforms, wider audiences, such as PSC or Friends of Al-Aqsa, or, you know, when you mentioned the hundreds of thousands of people that are on the streets for the national demos and marches, if those organizations are able to put a call out for us, if they are the ones who are able to you know, slot that date in the diary outside Woolwich Crown Court, that would help us and be beneficial to us. Because at the end of the day, the Filton24 or Prisoners for Palestine social media accounts are in no way comparable to the platforms that are offered by PSC or Friends of Al-Aqsa or any other solidarity movement for Palestine. So if all of these organizations, all of these movements are able to give that one universal message that we need to mobilize, we're calling on all supporters to mobilize here and now, and there's a lot of solidarity and unity needed to make this happen, and that is out of our hands. But I think that is a good point to take back in terms of reaching out to them and asking to see who's able to support this call out and put it on their social media platforms for mobilizing outside court, as we saw for NECAP's trial, which was thrown out and which now has been appealed. It's an insane world we live in, honestly. But yeah, and in terms of what we're doing to prepare, I mean, we're really hopeful that the jury will come to the right conclusion and will find them innocent. This has been a case many times when direct action, whether climate or pro-Palestine, is related, and that is why we see presently that jury trials are in the process of being thrown out just because of this, right? Because they do come back. They're the closest, in essence, to a fair trial in relation to the judge's direction to the jury, which would allow it to go another way. And at the end of the day, I don't want to think of anything else. I'm manifesting an acquittal, and I'll stop at that.
Thank you very much to all those who asked a question. Before we break, I'll just say that there are protests planned today at Peterborough prison where 3 of the Filton24 are being held. Oh, I'm sorry, tomorrow instead, at 6 p.m. Oh, sorry, at 4:30 p.m. That's changed suddenly. But if you can turn up, as Sukaina Rajwani has said, there's 3 of the Filton24 being held there. Please do look at the boards as well around and familiarise yourself with the names and faces. And just a big thank you again to Sukaina Rajwani and her husband for travelling. And a big thank you to Peterborough PSC and to all those who have made today happen with food, the boards, the hall, and those who also turn up to the prison. Everyone has their own capacity, everyone's got their own things going on in their life, and you've all made the time to come today, go to the prison, go to March's demonstration, and it is recognised and it is noted, so thank you very much. And please do walk around, meet people, and there will be food served at the back as well. Thank you.
The chairman is reading through this sign, the reactions to the report, and thank you. Please help us out. There's some rice, vegetarian rice, and there's some chicken curry and naan with that, and there's some cake, and there's gnocchi, and lots of other food. So please help us out and cook and serve and give your name to Mike. Mike is looking for new supporters. Mike, identify yourself.
Thank you very much, everyone. Free Palestine! Perfect. Thank you.